Welcome to Titan HST's Business Continuity Today, hosted by Todd DeVoe, where planning meets reality.
Welcome to Titan HST's Business Continuity Today, and this is our host, Todd DeVoe, speaking. And last night, I got to see the crossing of Jupiter and Saturn to create what they call the Christmas star. It was kind of a neat thing to see. Family came out and saw it. So for all those that are celebrating Christmas this holiday weekend, Merry Christmas. And for those that aren't, I wish you guys still a happy and wonderful Christmas or holiday season, that is. So today we're going to talk about the roles and responsibilities of business leaders and how over the last few months, I'd say like 8 months now, they have dramatically changed. And prior to COVID hitting, everybody was looking at, bottom line, how to make more money, how to increase sales, things like this, which most businesses are dealing with. But when COVID came around, our focus had to change. So now we're looking at like supply chain issues, team shortages, operational challenges, toilet paper shortages, right? Which I always think is kind of interesting. But anyway, and it dramatically altered the scope and the roles and responsibilities of these leaders. And so now we saw that those who were able to pivot or shift, right, into crisis leadership are doing a much better job. And the Harvard Business Review basically came out and said there's 4 behaviors that you have to have to be a proper or to do well in this crisis. And one is decide with speed over precision. The other one is adapt boldly. The other one is reliably deliver. And then the last one, of course, or I should say, of course, right, is engage for impact. And we're going to get into each one of these a little bit deeper. So what does it mean to decide with speed over precision? So we talked about this in another language before, but the thing is understand commander's intent, right? Understand what the mission of your business is and be able to make decisions based upon this. And that being said, the leaders have to do a few things. One is define the priorities. What is your business's priorities? What is the organization's priorities? Identify these and communicate these. And, we had a conversation about communication and what's this mean? And so I think in the case of communication, your priorities, it needs to be done in various different ways. Not everybody receives the same message the same way. So at least have 3 different modes of communication, whether it's going to be direct communication via email, through letters, through direct conversation with your employees or with your team members. Make smart trade-offs. So when there's conflicts that might arise among priorities, right, that you have outlined, make sure that you're trading off properly, right? So when there's conflict, which ones are going to make the most sense? And so don't become rigid. In the Marine Corps, the term that was used was semper gumby, always flexible, right? And so be that. Embrace the idea of being semper gumby. You have to name the decision makers. And that's one of the things that happens a lot where no one knows who is actually the decision maker. You guys go by committee, right? Whether it's voting. But if you do not have the decision maker named, who is going to be held responsible for that decision? And when I say responsible for that decision, it's not necessarily looking to chop somebody's head off necessarily. It's who's going to make that decision, who is going to push that ball down the field. And I think it's very important to put this in there. Even when we look at conflicts such as wars, right, there are decision makers that are named and it's by rank, right? And so if you lose one leader, okay, the next one steps up. So have that chain of command and have that succession plan in line as well. And then embrace the action and don't punish mistakes, because mistakes and mishaps and missteps will happen, right? We all know this. And so when we make incremental changes, right, we can pivot that ship. I guess to stop saying pivot so much. We can move that ship, or we can move the direction in an easier manner, right? So making those small decisions along the way, it's easier to make those changes of mistakes made. It's okay, right? We learn from them, and then we move forward. And if you start punishing them, people will not make decisions, and that is worse than not making a decision is worse than making a bad decision in cases, right? Adopt boldly. What does that mean? Right? So strong get ahead and by the changing circumstances, right? We need, again, this is the separate Gumby again, right? So one of the things you need to do is decide what not to do, right? So if you have multiple things that are going on, you might have to put some stuff on the back burner, and we make those decisions very, very wisely, right? And it's going again where things are conflicting, right? Move those to the back burner. Don't necessarily kill the initiative, but say, hey, look, at this time, we're not going to focus on this. We need to move things outside. Throughout yesterday's playbook, I love that term because if things aren't working today, why stick to the same playbook that you're using before, right? We are in a new era, right? We are in a new era. We are in COVID. I don't know if we're going to be into a post-COVID anytime soon. If you look at some of the reports that are going on, this looks like it's going to have legs. It's going to be a long-term thing. So we need to shift the priorities of what we're doing. We need to shift from the old playbook and sit down and make that new playbook. And it goes into planning, right? And as we discussed before, planning is key to this. But if it doesn't meet the plan, right, you need to adjust. And so I think that's important. And it says, we want to strengthen or build direct connections with the front line. You cannot as a leader, right? And I stress this highly, you can't lead from behind, right? We talked about Teddy Roosevelt leading from the front. You need to be more like the servant leader. You need to adopt to that. You need to lead from the front because those that are on the front line will not respect you, right? And will not want to listen to you if you're sitting up high and making decisions and not understanding what things are on the ground. It's very, very critical for this. And, so get out there, be part of it, right? Do not lead from your office. You need to get out there on the ground and lead with them. So you also need to deliver reliably, right? Stay alert and aligned to the daily dashboard of priorities. And again, it's setting those priorities and make sure that they're working. You need to document your top 5 priorities each day, right? Each week, each month, right? Okay. And again, those things can shift, but those are what we're looking at. And that comes into the idea of commander's intent, right? And allowing your people to know these are what your priorities are. This is what needs to get done. And if they need to be shifted, right, explain why they're being shifted and then move those priorities around. And you also want to set your key performance indicators. One of the things that frustrates people is not knowing how they're being looked at, right? And if you lay those key performance indicators down saying these are what you're being judged upon, okay? And I'm not necessarily, and again, I'm not saying judge the individual on those things, right? Judge the project on those things, right? Judge the outcomes of what you are doing. Because if you can't, whatever project you're working on isn't being, if you aren't judging those, how do you know if you're moving the ball down the field or not? So do that and keep those metrics. And that way people know they're getting things done up, right? And again, keep your mind and keep the team in fighting shape, right? And so you must be able to maintain your mind is sharpen that tool, as we say, right? Sharpen steel on steel, and making sure that you know what's going on, making sure you know what's going on in your team, and engage for impact, right? And this is where I think is important. This is where the concept of the servant leader comes into play. Connect with individual team members, right? Everybody is going through this crisis together. Okay. They have to know that you have their back, right? And when your team understands that they are truly cared for and that you definitely have their back on this, they're going to perform like no one else, right? Really deeply engage with your team, right? Go in there, have breaks with them, break bread with them, have coffee with them when you're on your breaks. Have those conversations. Don't just talk about what's going on necessarily the business side of them. See what's going on with their individual aspects during this crisis, right? Whether they're impacted at home or their family members abroad or whatever's going on in their life. Make sure that you understand that and support them through this because again, they're going through this crisis, right? It's not just a business crisis that's going on. It's a human crisis that's going on, right? If you need help, all right, ask for help as needed. Okay. Reach out to your team members and let them know that you need help. Be human to them, right? The best leaders can't do everything by themselves. right? Identify the team structure and let them know, hey, well, I need help on this particular reason and why. And so also ensure your focus on both customers and employees, right? We're here to support our customers or in the government way, our clients, right? The citizens, the residents, and reach out and be first and do no harm, right? And so have that again, that outreach to let everybody know. Be an open book, be transparent on what's going on. And I think at this time, I shouldn't say I think, I know at this time, people are very forgiving. And I think you should embrace that and let them know what's going on specifically in your business and in the government, right? And you need to really take a look and amplify the positive message. Find the positives that are happening during this crisis. You watch the news and everything that is reported is negative, but we also need to do as organizations is find that positive and celebrate those wins, as small as they may be, because that gives hope and that gives presence. So, as a leader of leaders, you're navigating a new and ever-changing priorities, and with limited time to react. And so, some small investments in support and coaching can go a long way towards boosting your other leaders' effectiveness. So go out there, lean forward, and lead. So thank you for being with us today, and visit Titan HST for all your communications needs. And remember, follow us on your favorite podcast player, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and join us next week. Until then, stay safe and stay hydrated. And Merry Christmas, everyone.